Hello, my name is Justin Bingham, and this is my case study on Brazil. So here's a brief outline on the presentation today. We're going to have an introduction of the country of Brazil. We're going to talk about the independence movement, talk about healthcare, tourism, carnival, and then wrap it up with a conclusion at the end. So here's a little introduction to the country of Brazil. Brazil is the 5th largest country in the world. It is the only Portuguese-speaking country in all of the Americas. It is also the largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world. It was named after a tree called Brazilwood. It has the 5th largest population in the world, estimated to be around 200 million people. And samba music was originated in Brazil. Brazilian independence. Although it wasn't the bloodiest independent movement in all of Latin America, Brazil's independence was not easily granted. With the end of the French Revolution in 1799 and the rise of the Napoleonic War in 1803, war was upon all of Europe. With all the European powers preoccupied, many colonies in the Americas took this as a time to declare independence. In Portugal, King Dom João had left with his son Dom Pedro to Brazil in direct response to the French invasion of Europe. In 1815, by the end of the Napoleonic Wars, João had left his son Dom Pedro in Brazil and made him regional prince with the ability to govern Brazil. After movements against Pedro started in Portugal, and the Constituent Assembly, known as the Cortes, demanded that King Dom João return from Brazil, military officers based in Brazil started to side with their homeland. Pedro was ordered to return to Europe and was criticized by the Cortes Assembly, which led to Dom Pedro to start his place and his loyalties with Brazil. On January 9, 1822, Pedro made the announcement, "As it is for the good of all and for the nation's general happiness, I am ready. Tell the people that I will stay." When the Cortes Assembly got word of his actions, they stripped him from all his power that remained as governor. This was the tipping point for Pedro, as he informed his friends that all ties to Portugal were now broken. On the 22nd of September 1822, Pedro wrote a letter to his father breaking all ties and declaring independence. Pedro was acclaimed Dom Pedro, Constitutional Emperor, and perpetual defender of Brazil. Brazilian nationalized healthcare rights. Unlike the United States of America, in Brazil, healthcare is a constitutional right. Healthcare in Brazil is funded by the Brazilian government, and the Ministry of Health is responsible for its public health services, government-funded hospitals, and medical services. Government-funded hospitals provide good health care, but often have long wait times because they are free. This is because around 70% of the Brazilian population uses public hospital, while most of the other 30% pay for privatized health care. Healthcare is available for anyone who is legally in Brazil, including those who are not citizens but legal residents. These people do not pay for doctors' fees, lab fees, hospitalization, surgery, or prescription drugs. Since the adoption of free healthcare in 1988, the average life expectancy has improved, and more people have given access to healthcare benefits. Of course, several challenges remain in healthcare in Brazil. Many times, hospital lacks essential staff and equipment to treat patients. Wait times are very long, and most people do not get seen right away. The money put into the healthcare system is far from adequate. While the government pays for free healthcare, as little money as possible is put into the system, which is the cause of most other issues with the healthcare system in Brazil. Overall, the Brazilian healthcare system has a way to go, but it has been an overall improvement for the country. Brazil shows that the healthcare should be a right and is way too important to be ignored. Brazil's ongoing commitment to free healthcare is a statement on a global scale of what natural human rights are, and that free healthcare is possible for other countries to achieve. Brazilian tourism. As one of the biggest sources of income for Brazil, tourism proves vital for Brazilian GDP and their economy. Brazil is the most visited country in the continent of South America, and for a good reason. Brazil has something for every type of tourist, from the rainforests of the Amazon, to the sandy beaches, to Carnival, to historically significant infrastructures. Brazil covers the entire tourist destination checklist. During the 2016 Olympics held in Rio, Brazil saw a total of 6.6 million international travelers visit the country. In turn, this led to $6.2 billion into the Brazilian economy, which was well needed for the country. So how dependent is Brazil on tourism? Sources show that tourism is a top contributor to GDP growth for the country. Hence, the Brazilian economy is very dependent on other global economies. For example, when the United States went into depression in 2008, Brazil started to fall into a similar recession. Less and less people flocked to Brazil to go on vacation, and it showed. Brazil has always had economic struggles because of its dependence on tourism, and even today slides deeper into recession. Even still, Brazil looks to keep tourism on the radar, and has beautiful destinations to do so. A great example is the famous statue of Christ the Redeemer. As a symbol of Brazilian Christianity, the statue is located on the top of the Corivado mountain. Standing at 98 feet tall, this statue is a symbol that is meant to show that Jesus loves all. Second to Christ the Redeemer, Rio Carnival is the second most visited attraction in all of Brazil. As one of the largest festivals in the world, Carnival is a 5-day celebration that exhibits the cultural side of the country. Overall, tourism in Brazil is essential to their economy. Tourism in Brazil provides millions of jobs and allows for people from all over the world to visit the beautiful country. With something for all types of tourist personalities, Brazil has locations for the adventurous, luxurious, and historical buffs. Brazil will always be the most visited tourist destination in all of South America. We touched on it earlier on the other slide, but I just wanted to go more in depth on Brazil Carnival. So Carnival is a 5-day celebration, 40 days before Easter, that starts on a Friday and goes until Fat Tuesday, right before the beginning of Lent on Ash Wednesday. It started off as a Catholic event by origin, but was also rooted in many pagan traditions in Europe. Carnival started off as a food festival because it was the last time people would eat excessively before the 40 days of Lent. The characteristics of Brazilian Carnival are rooted between the combined culture of the Portuguese and the Africans. Starting in the 1830s as a food festival, but by the late 1800s, early 1900s, street musicians and dancing were introduced into the celebration. By the 1930s, samba parade competitions made their way into the festival, much like the ones held today. Carnival today still shares many of the same traditions as the past. Samba competitions are held in the Samba Dome by many different samba schools who compete to win. Once the Samba Dome empties, the parties continue all over the city for the next 5 days with food, music, and dancing for the people to enjoy. Parades are held throughout the city, and people dressed in vibrant costumes, as well as ride elegant floats. Rio de Janeiro has one of the most well-known Carnival celebrations. It features more than 100 block parades, many of which are supported by the city's samba schools. Favelas heavily influence Rio Carnival. Favela residents are often members of the samba schools and participate in group performances. All in all, Brazil is a unique and culturally rich country. As the largest and most visited country in South America, it's no secret that Brazil is at the forefront of South American tourism, healthcare, and economy. Unlike other countries in South America, this Portuguese-speaking nation is a reminder of unique history and culture represented in all of the Americas. It is a country that I would like to visit one day, and one that I had the pleasure to learn more about this semester.